Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gilbert Town Council study session for December 12th, 2023. You know, we have some friends here in the audience for a discussion that we're about to have. Study sessions are limited to the council discussion. No public comment is taken. No action or vote will be taken this evening. Based on state law, we are not allowed to do that. Study sessions give us an opportunity to get information from our staff and to have a conversation amongst the 7 of us on topics that we haven't had otherwise an opportunity to speak about. We're very limited in the times that we can get together to discuss items, and this is one of those situations where it was an item that has become, I guess, a hot button, and so I wanted to bring it forward so that we could discuss it here as a group instead of everybody maybe being on a different page and get the facts out there. So I've invited staff. I'll call this meeting to order. Agenda item is just one, discussion and overview of the Code of Gilbert, and Robert Carmona is here to present this evening. Hi, Robert.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having me this evening. Robert Carmona, Parks Rec and Facilities Director for Gilbert. Council asked that we put together a quick presentation, giving a little bit of the history of the wildlife feeding ordinance within Gilbert Parks and Recreation. So we have a few slides just to talk about a little bit of the history. So in 2015, the ordinance was originally approved and the subject of feeding being unlawful to feed or place food outdoors for any animal in the riparian preserve, except with some of the items below, feeding waterfowl in accordance with signage posted, and then the Parks and Recreation Director could authorize specific persons to feed in purposes of wildlife rescue, rehabilitation, or management. In 2018, the below ordinance was also approved, a little bit deeper than the one we just talked about in 2015, having it be unlawful to feed or place food for any wild or feral animal on town-owned property or a public right-of-way, with that same exclusion that the Parks and Recreation Director, at his or her discretion, could authorize for the purpose of animal rescue, rehabilitation, or management. So with that, one of the topics that I know has been a question is the trap, neuter, return program within Gilbert. It is a method that humanely attempts to manage populations of feral cats. Essentially, the practice of TNR is allowed on private property per the ordinance in Gilbert. There's nothing stopping TNR from happening on private property. The ordinance does state that it is not allowed on town-owned property per the ordinance. And with that, just a very simple upfront, that's what the ordinance states and doesn't state, but wanted to make sure we open it up for questions that the council may have.
Thanks, Robert. Any questions from anyone on the council? Vice Mayor, I see you reaching.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm not quite sure if it's a question for you, Robert, but it could be. I know that several years ago we didn't talk about it as a council as a whole. I think individually we had some conversations with your staff and management about other programs and other communities. The one that I'm most interested in is the one where we put together a grant program which allows neighborhoods to access dollars to work with nonprofits to help address this concern in their neighborhoods. I think that's what we talked about, and I don't know if maybe we could have some more information provided to us in the future, Mayor. I'm interested in that type of program if the other council members are interested in. I am supportive of the current ordinance because of the liability for the community and the town as a whole. When we try to take this kind of action on town property. But anyway, I'm open to having a conversation about putting a grant program together, which is funded by the town of Gilbert.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Thank you, Mayor. Robert, also, along with what Vice Mayor's saying, an idea of the costs associated with that. Both for us and or if it's a volunteer situation, like what the cost is.
Yeah, Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Bongiovanni, I think that's something we can definitely gather some additional information for you. We do know that there are programs such as Chandler, which does the neighborhood grant program at about $1,000 per neighborhood annually, and I think it's up to $12,000 annually that they have that, but I want to make sure I'd have the correct information, but if interested, we could bring back additional information on that with other municipalities and the funding levels that they've had towards a program such as that one.
Are you,
Yeah, I can follow up.
you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Yeah. Do your organization, or any other organization have any idea of an estimate of the number of cats we're talking about?
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Bongiovanni, we would not at this time. It's not something that's studied by the town, and we don't have any current numbers in any of our, parks per se at the current moment.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kaprowski?
You might have just answered this, but my question was related to if you had an idea of any existing conditions within our existing park facilities.
Yeah, Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Kaprowski, I think that overall, we're not aware of any that I can say that we have an abundance of any of our parks based on complaints from the users of the park system. But I will say that's not something we track in terms of colonies, so I don't want to give you a full definite answer, but nothing that we're aware of at this point.
Thank you.
Councilmember Buckley?
Hi, Rob.
Hi.
I'm wondering about the Humane Society. I know we haven't had this issue until maybe the last 5 or 10 years, and it's my understanding that Humane Society will not take cats anymore. And is there any way we can go and have a meeting with them or talk to them and see if, even if we contribute a little bit to have them go back to the program they had before? And, they can catch the stray cats and then they put them up for adoption. If the feral cats, I don't know. I mean, they can maybe get them domesticated a little bit and then adopt them out. I think after a few months, they would be better. Is that something that I'd be happy to go with you if we could set a meeting up with them and let them know that this whole feral cat issue in Gilbert is way out of hand. And we need to find a solution, some kind of a solution to humanely make this work. And
Yeah, Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Buckley, I think you're correct in that they're no longer accepting the cats, but I do think there's several nonprofits, in the community and around Phoenix who would be interested in having a conversation overall, and especially if you partner that with, if there is interest in a type of grant program for neighborhoods or private property, I think that's a conversation that we could definitely have, and there'd be interested parties to have that.
okay. I just feel that probably we're not going to solve this here today, but if we can get some ideas and some things that we can do, it's absolutely something that somehow we need to fix. Thank you.
No problem.
Are you finished, Councilmember? Councilmember
Oh,
Buckley?
I'm-
Sorry, thank you. Oh, no, sorry. No. You have to turn it on and shut it off. Thank you. Is that helpful? Okay.
I like this system.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Did you have anything? Go ahead. Councilmember Torgerson.
There we go. Is TNR still, is that legal in all parts of the town?
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Torgerson, TNR is, you can do it on private property. Right now, the ordinance would say that you would not be able to on public property, rights of way or parks, without discretion of the Parks and Recreation Director, but you are allowed to currently do it on private property without any approval except for whoever's land the private property is.
Thank you.
Robert, the town of Gilbert owns maybe 5% of the land in Gilbert, I'd say, right? So 95% of the land in Gilbert is private property and accessible for TNR programs. And I love the conversation that we would potentially look at some sort of a grant program, but there's a lot of balancing that we need to do with that. Who would be running that program? Which department would that come out of? And yesterday we heard a list of items that are needed by this community right now. And so I struggle with how much we would give to that process and how that would be run through the town. And we would essentially be offering money to folks to go on somebody's private property to do TNR, so they'd have to show that they have permission to do so. Councilmember Anderson, you have your microphone on. Would you like to say something?
Go ahead.
Okay. I believe in the TNR system. I have a kitten who came from a TNR. His mom was trapped and with all intents purposes to spay her, and she was pregnant. And she delivered about 3 days later. And so Stanley became my COVID kitten. I think everybody adopted a pet in the middle of the pandemic. Stanley was mine. And so I got to watch him from the second that he was born until now. He's lived with us for 3 years. So I definitely appreciate the program. And it was a friend who lives in Chandler that TNR's in her neighborhood. She has permission to do so. And she didn't know that this cat was pregnant. She trapped her and found out that she was pregnant. And so then she had 4 kittens to take care of, and they were all adopted out to great families. So I really do believe in the program and the process, and I'm definitely open to having a conversation. I think that, I don't think that we have an out-of-hand problem here in Gilbert, but I do think that there is a situation, and I'm a huge cat lover, and if there's something that we can do to maybe help the situation, I'd like to see that. Councilmember Anderson?
I would just encourage that if we do end up agendizing this discussion, that it not be about rescinding this ordinance, but talking about a program with grants and so forth, but not rescinding this ordinance.
Any other comments on that? No? I agree. I think that we do have the ordinance in place, and it is a liability for the town and the property that we own, and that's why that was put into place. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to work with groups potentially and to offer some funding to allow that to happen on the 95% of the land that's out there in the town of Gilbert that the town doesn't own. And maybe we even help with connections on how to reach the person that does own the land if that's a necessary thing that somebody needs help with. So, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Mayor Peterson, members of council, we appreciate the feedback tonight, and we can absolutely go back and talk as a team and look at some of the options based on some of the feedback that we received tonight.
Thank Robert.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. That was the only item on our agenda this evening, and so I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.